Anyone else here loves it when their favorite character suffers emotionally? Spider-Man fans go wild when a new comic comes out and Peter is still broke and depressed. Shadow fans rejoice when he relives the trauma of losing Maria. There really is something special about watching a character you care for and are fully invested in to experience some of that good old-fashioned pain. We care and love them more for it, and become even more invested in their story. We want to root for them and watch them rise above their adversities. We want them to grow. For me, it's also about seeing them as a human being, more than just a fictional 2D character. And because I see these characters that I'm invested in as actual humans, there's one thing every human can understand despite our differences of beliefs and cultural barriers. That would be suffering. Suffering is a universal language. Well, hello there. I'm here today to spread the good gospel of Gintama. I'll be honest, this really wasn't the first Gintama video I wanted to make, but f*** it, I'm here now. Sakata Gintoki is around the top of the list when I think of characters who suffer in silence. And I'm not saying that like it's a competition and Gin is an all-star level talent of gloom and depression. I know how some of y'all like power scaling trauma. I'm only stating how I think my boy Gin does it skillfully. After all, not everyone can pull off wearing a mask. Gin is like that goofy, extra hilarious friend you grew up with. Sometimes they're using comedy to cope with, hide, or even ignore their problems. And unless they truly told you what they were going through, you'd never know, because they mask their pain really well. Gintoki is special in this sense because he'd be on some goofy timing and then a few seconds later he'd hit you with some gems, and those gems could really end up leaving a mark on you. And you wanna know the type of people who hit you with gems on top of gems? It's people who have been through some shit. And even that right there is kinda underselling what Gin had to endure and carry with himself day in and day out. Gin isn't like the average shonen MC. For starters, he doesn't ooze passion like how other teenage MCs might, with a strong drive to reach their goal. He's a grown-ass man who has a job and pays rent. But to be honest, sometimes he can't even pay rent. Also, he's in a show that's primarily comedy, that's filled with Japanese pop culture, jokes and parodies of other animes and mangas, with a bunch of filthy toilet humor and gags. I'm telling you, Gintama is a one-of-one experience, because as stupid and silly as it can be at times, there is nothing else like it. It might be tough imagining how you can go from shit like this to shit like this. Nothing else is like it, man, and that's not even me trying to gas up the series. Anyway, Gin works as a freelancer, taking on a bunch of odd jobs with the help of Kagura and Shinpachi, his odd jobs family, both of whom aren't connected to Gin's prior life as a samurai, where he and other samurai revolted against the Yamato alien invaders from taking over Edo, Japan. But the samurai ultimately lost, leaving the Yamato to control their government. Yeah, sounds a bit crazy. I mean, shit. Over here, we have meta fourth wall breaking jokes because characters are self-aware that they're in an anime. We got gender swaps. We got gorillas, we got Will Smith, Planet Namek, stalkers, BDSM, stalkers who are into BDSM, demons, wooden swords that could break steel, androids, Star Wars, with much more, and all while tapping into damn near every genre. With all of this madness going on, an outsider who has never seen this show might wonder how can there be any room for any sort of suffering or seriousness, especially for a character like Gin who is usually in the middle of all this ridiculousness. Whether it's working a job, getting dragged into something, or just casually stumbling upon someone in need of help, Gin is going to end up offering up himself as well as some wise words that'll touch a person's soul, and that's done despite him being who he is on the surface. In the end, he cares and will help despite how much he tells you with a straight face how much he doesn't care. Lying ass bitch. So how can I say everything I just said about Gin and knowing what he's capable of in this absurd ass show and still make the claim that Gin has mastered the art of someone who suffers, unbeknownst to anyone else around him? Well, me answering that would be spoilers, and I don't really feel like spoiling in this video. Who am I kidding? If you've already seen Gintama or don't care about being spoiled because you're a sick little fuck, then keep watching. If not, just skip over to this timestamp. Gin killing Shoyo, his teacher and mentor who instilled teachings that Gin cherished and still continued to spread well after his death, particularly with Kagura and Shinpachi along with others he helps, is some pretty heavy shit, and all so that he could save Katsura and Takasugi, his comrades in arms during the war against the Yamato. Having to live with such a heavy decision, which, let's be real, is a lose-lose situation, is pretty devastating. To lose Shoyo's school, other comrades who are also fellow students of Shoyo, and live on after your mentor's life was taken by your own hands in order to save your other comrades, and all while knowing that you're still gonna have to end up living under enemy rule, isn't something I don't think anyone in Gintoki's position would be able to ignore. Takasugi's hate for Gin for his decision is also icing on the cake. Killed my mentor, and as a result got scorned by a fellow comrade, especially when the last thing my mentor told me before he was taken away was to protect the others. Man. But despite all of that, we see how Gin turned out. Gin could have easily gone down a more radical path after what he experienced, but he didn't. He held on to his mentor's teaching and beliefs. But even then, despite how much heart he has and how brightly his soul shines through, this man is half dead inside. Sometimes it seriously feels like Gin is willing to throw himself into harm's way so recklessly, not with the intention of ending it all, but because he's so quick to go into dangerous situations by himself. I'll never forget when Shinpachi had to lay his big ass on the floor and talk some sense into him after he almost got himself killed. By association, Kagura and Shinpachi are a part of Shoyo's tree through Gin. And lucky for him, he has both of them by his side anytime he's ready to jump into the fire, whenever he's on those reckless streaks. Now, I get that I can say all of this because I've seen all of Gintama. That's not to say that the clues aren't there in the show before viewers truly have a picture of Gintoki's past, but the evidence is there. The dead fish eyes as a result from the numbness left behind from the scars of his past, the seeming lack of emotion because he more so empathizes and has a wall of comedy to hide his feelings with, and lying and pretending as if he doesn't care when he does, these are all signs of someone who has been and is still hurting. Gintoki's exterior is all for show, while he's constantly demonstrating who he is by his actions and his words. He really has that A1 mask. He helps you, says some profound shit that you wouldn't expect him to say, manages to make you feel better about yourself in the moment, but no one ever wonders how he's doing. On the surface with Gin, we learn he's a nose-picking, diabetic, sugar-munching, and guzzling grown man who enjoys reading Jump and is lazy. That's what he's fine with showing others about himself. But time after time again, he's willing to jump into the fire to help and defend others. Now, I don't think anything I've said is a reach, but you know what, let's go with that. Let's say I am reaching, forget everything I just said. How would you go on to explain all of this? Just look at these openings. His head is in the clouds, usually thinking about his past. Not that I blame him given that what's happened, but there's no way I can see him thinking about his past this much and be like, you know what, Gin is just a funny laid-back character who occasionally gets serious. No, you pull his mask back and all of this is right there. You don't even need to go digging deep to find what's buried away. This man walks around with a heavy burden, having his past play into his mind every so often, and on the outside he's doing some goofy shit like this. You know what? Maybe the greater point of this whole video is that you need to check on your strong friends. Just because they're the strong ones in a group, it shouldn't automatically be assumed that everything is going alright with them. Yeah, they're helping everyone else with their own burdens, but sometimes they're wired in a way that they don't want to burden others with their own burdens. So they take care of it in silence, and sometimes taking care of it is just living with it. I'll also never forget the time it's finally exposed what happened in Gintoki's past, opposed to the tiny breadcrumbs we usually get earlier on in the show. When it's finally explained, Suki looks at Gintoki like, "God damn, bro, is that true?" Personally, for me, it hits harder considering her arc with her mentor. But yeah, my guy holds that painful shit in. He doesn't openly talk about it with people he's close to and comfortable around. And to be fair to Gin, he doesn't have to. No one has to, unless they feel willing to do so. But you never really know what someone can be going through, and especially not what they've been through. God, there really is something about a character who has their own thing going on, holds it in, puts it aside, and still manages to help others out. That's why Gintoki is easily one of my favorite characters across any medium. Again, I never planned for this to be my first Gintama video, but it was running on my mind a lot this past week. I swear, my brain randomly alternates thinking about Gintama, Hunter x Hunter, and Vinland Saga throughout most weeks. But hey, if you're one of the 4 people who made it to the end of this video, who was previously bored and curious and have never seen Gintama, and this video even piqued your curiosity even just a little bit, then consider checking out Gintama. Because just like the mask that Gintoki wears, Gintama has a lot more to offer beyond its surface.